98.1 FM, Lakeport. And this is Doc, and you're about to listen to the R&B Review, and I got something special for you today, and I'll tell you about it as soon as we hear a few other things. Okay, I got a surprise for y'all here. First of all, though, we got a gig coming up Friday, and it's going to be at the Hall in Findlay, and it's a Halloween gig, and it's a benefit for, oh boy, here we go now, for Hope City, which is an organization that's trying to help people that had homes that they lost in the fire that didn't have adequate insurance. And they've got a great band that's going to be playing there this weekend. It's called Clean Sweep. And once again, they're one of the bands in the county that gives, you know, as far as plays great music for you. They put something out for themselves, and they're doing this gig for us, and I think it's great. And they're here. So we're going to have a little chat. We got, right now, we've got David, and we got Pat and Joni and Keith here, and they're four of the members of the band, and they're going to start talking to you, I think, here in a minute. As soon as I figure out what I'm going to ask them, I got to get their microphones turned up. But that's what's happening, and you got to go to this gig. It's going to be great at the Hall, 7 to 10, Friday night. And who wants to start? Tell me something about you guys. Whoever wants to start first is fine. Make sure the mic's close to you so we can hear it, and I'll make sure we can hear you guys too. So
1, 2, check, check, check. Hello.
Hey. I think I can say one thing is that this band actually got started at a benefit.
Can't remember that.
At the Eli stage stop.
Oh, that's true.
That's where you and I first actually did a whole gig together. And then and that was where Mikey, Mikey G, our guitar player, contacted me and showed an interest in wanting to play. And next thing we knew, we had Clean Sweep, and then I got an email from Bernie about Keith saying that he moved up to the county, and I had known Keith from the 80s, so I called him right away, and next thing you know, we had a really great...
We got a band.
We sure did.
We painted the barn red.
One that shares musically with one another.
Who was the guitar player at the benefit?
Andy Simpson.
Oh, Andy. Okay.
Yeah.
This bands, you know, usually rotate through players until they get the right gel. That's usually what happens.
Well, that's what I had been doing for 5 years almost, was just doing pickup bands, you know, booking gigs and calling musicians.
Well, I got lucky when I first came up here. My wife and I moved up here last year in September, and I saw that at the Blue Wing on Monday nights there were bands with people who I knew, some of the members, like Nancy Wright, and Laura Lee Christensen and Paul Olguin, and I went, well, you know, get in the car and stay up late and go to the Blue Wing and sit in a little bit. And sure enough, Nancy introduced me to Bernie, and Bernie got a hold of Pat, and I got a call, or it might have been a text, most likely a text. Anyway, we hooked up. And it's an excellent band, and it's even a family of sorts. Especially, I haven't been through what all of you have been through with the fires over the last 2 or 3 years, and so to know that my wife and I, if we were in trouble or if we were evacuated, we had a place to go. We could go to Pat and Joni's house. I was part of a family, you know, which was, that's pretty lucky.
Yeah,
Nice
absolutely.
feeling.
You're always welcome to stay with us. I wanted to mention, too, that the Blue Wing, which is Bernie Butcher's baby.
If you don't know where the Blue Wing, it's in Upper Lake, and they do all kinds of great musical stuff.
Music stuff and great food, and the
Yes,
Tallman
they do.
Hotel.
Great
And they have the, what is it, the Labor Day Blues Festival? That Clean Sweep was able to play at that a little bit, opening for Joe Louis Walker. And I wanted to say, too, that at the Eli stage stop, where we all kind of met and developed this band, that was also for Hope City.
Yes, it was.
And I think that was the first one we did for Hope City. And
It was, because I was there, because I was sitting bar at that
yeah,
point,
that's
you know,
right.
so.
That's right, you were.
Yeah, you guys were. That was the very first one, right
Yeah,
there.
and I know this is near and dear to a lot of us because a lot of us lost homes, and we know people that lost homes, and I know this is important to you, David, to give back, and I know you were there, too.
A whole bunch, yeah. A couple of things about Blue Wing. First of all, I'll plug myself a little. I play as a soloist.
This is
Most
David
people
Neff
know
you're listening to.
the
by the
piano
way.
man now, and I've actually retired from real estate after 40 years of selling what I call organized wood. And people come up to me and say, "Oh, do you deliver by the cord?" And I say, "It's more organized than that." Real estate. Anyway, but I gradually, over these last few years, have just gone to my first love, which is playing the keyboards. And I do play the second Tuesday of most months all year long at the Blue Wing from about 6 to 8 at night, and part of their Tuesday music series. Bernie is really great about promoting all different kinds of music on various nights and on the weekends.
You know, also that night, I believe, it's $20 meal night, too. So
That's
you can come
correct,
in and hear David play and get a good meal for
you
20
can
bucks.
for $20, and they have the regular menu as well, which best burgers around if you're a carnivore.
I'll tell you, the huevos rancheros. Mwah.
We should just do a chef's show, you know, on
Hey, we
fine
have
dining in
one of
Lake
those.
County.
One of these nights, David, one of these nights, we're all going to show up for your Tuesday night, and then we're going to play with you and take all your money.
Oh, the other thing that's funny about, you mentioned about late nights when you want to get to know Into the Blue Wing, but, you know, all of us in the business for any number of years know that it ends on Monday nights playing because you start at 6:30 and you're pretty well over by 9, which usually is quite often the starting time for the most of us who have played clubs and all that stuff in life. And so at our shall we say, more mature ages now, it's really nice when, you know, we certainly will, and gladly, by the way, for you out there in radio land, we would gladly play into the night if that's what the gig calls for. But I have to admit, all of us kind of like getting to bed
Early is good these days. After 66, early is
I
good.
do know the feeling when you're used to going to the 7 to 10 shows, and then you want to see somebody, but it's 9 to 1:30, and you're going,
Yes.
oh, man, you know.
Oh, and then when you go to sit in at the
Oh, yeah.
at the all night at the jam in the city in some little club somewhere. Oh yeah.
Now the other extreme is I play farmers markets on occasion. There is a market in St. Helena. Now remember, I live now in the Buckingham area. It starts for the musicians at 7:30 a.m. in the morning on a Friday morning.
Wow.
And
It's my people.
Yes, yeah. I go, we all musicians usually say, "There's a 7:30 in the morning too." You know,
I'd have to set an alarm for that one.
that's awfully. I'm up by 5.
My wife's up at 5:15. She was she used to own a club in North Beach called the Lost and Found. That's when I met her and her partners. And as all things like that, especially crazy things in crazy neighborhoods, that they come and they go. And after she left the Lost and Found, she was overqualified. She couldn't find a job. One of the best waitresses, the hardest working people, the most knowledgeable person about the business, and no one wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry, no, we can't. And then she started working at a Mel's Drive-In in San Francisco.
Ah, Mel's.
And she really loved opening up the joint because she didn't have to deal with any other authority figures until 9 a.m. when the quote manager unquote came in. So anyway, for the last 14 years when we live in San Francisco, she was up at 3 and out of the house by 4:30. And so since we moved up here, 5:15, 5:30, she's up like a shot.
Is that
making coffee?
Lombard Street? Is that one, the Mel's, or there's
Lombard right near Stanyon here.
near that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's for another plug. Come to think of it, Keith talking about North Beach and his wife's club there and what's going on. Keith has this fabulous CD that he put out and produced, and
Actually, I played it a number of times on my jazz show.
it's
Nice.
great.
I don't know if you realize that my listeners
told me
that's
that.
who's here, but it is the same Keith. It is Keith Crossan that I have played for you before, and so that might give you a hint at the quality of the horn you're going to hear with Clean Sweep. Also,
and the CD is called Beatnik Jungle.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's based on the North Beach.
Well,
Yeah.
I was making the record, and there's a time frame for everything, and I had to come up with a name for the record, and we were playing at the Lost and Found and with Tommy Castro Band. It's the early '90s. Lost and Found, the Saloon, the Grant and Green. It was, and then Lou's Pier 47 and Blues on Lombard. And one more time to make up a name for the record, I thought, okay, North Beach, all the great artists and the writers and the poets and the beatniks and all the people that would invite you over to their apartment after the gig, and 2 days later, well, you can't find your car and you owe them $200. It was also a jungle of sorts. So the beatnik jungle, I thought, described
that was a great
two
name.
different sides.
That must have originated, that name, in the late 50s, I think, when I was a very young lad. I was born in 1950. And then, if I remember, they referred to Maynard on Dobie Gillis' show
Maynard G. Krebs,
as a beatnik.
Oh, yes, they did.
You know,
Absolutely.
And he could never say work without going, work.
Yeah.
Well,
I knew how he felt,
That's how he felt.
Junior high school, yeah. Anyway, we would all put on phony mustaches, and the girls would put on leotards and white blouses, and we'd be beatniks.
It goes back because Grant Street in San Francisco, all the coffee houses.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was places like the Hungry Eye where bands like Peter, Paul, and Mary and Kingston Trio and stuff like that. And they were beatnik bands.
That's right.
Yeah.
Purple Onion was
the
another-
Purple Onion.
Another
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
They always used to love how they
Perfect location.
They put names together that are always opposite, like the Iron Butterfly.
Yeah.
Guns and Roses. And,
I used to see the Iron
Purple.
Butterfly out at various festivals. Yes.
yeah, there was a lot.
Don't worry, I won't play Inagata Devita.
These are for,
Promise?
Here's one for you: the Strawberry Alarm Clock.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, those were
Incense
some
and peppermints.
kind of L.A. named hippie bands.
Must have been.
The Lemon Pipers. I remember seeing them at the Avalon or at the Fillmore or something, and they made an excuse. Hey, you guys, we're really sorry that we got a hit record, and it's My Green Tambourine, but we got this other stuff here for you guys because you're the
Yeah.
the real deal.
And Ivan from the Lemon Pipers lives nearby.
Oh, is that right?
And
Don't
his
tell us
wife
that.
works at the Main Street Veterinary Clinic, so we talk music with her all the time. And
Small world.
yeah, it is a small world. There's a lot of people in this area that are from your era, and I say
I'm
your era
learning.
because I'm just a child. I don't know what you're talking about.
This is all,
It's okay.
It's all mystery to
I'm catching on
the
now.
younger generation.
She's the baby of the band.
The baby and the mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baby mama.
Yes, if she has 6 babies to take care of.
I know.
Yeah.
The spiritual consultant as well. Which
I was in again the Blue Wing one day, and a guy came up and said, "I sure like your playing," and he said, "I used to be in the music business," and his name was Jerry Corbetta, and he was in the group where I memorized every line, every single note of his solo because I loved it, because I fell in love early on with the Hammond B3 sound, and the band was a Green-Eyed Woman, Green-Eyed Lady, Lady, dum bum 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 ba da da bum bum, real low notes on the organ and stuff, and he just had a fantastic solo in it, and turned out it was him, and he'd been retired now, and just all these one-hit wonder people.
Sure.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, you're Syndicate of Sound.
I
They
guess
used
I
to
am
play
one of
with.
those. Yeah.
John Sharkey used to be the manager of the band I was in when I was in high school, and he was the rhythm guitar player for the Syndicate of Sound.
I was not in the band in their hit years, a couple of different hits, but Hey Little Girl, Hey Little, actually Little Girl.
When I was in high school down in San Jose, Los Gatos area,
Yes.
they were really big down there.
They were big. And
KLIV,
a
man.
group called People was big, had a hit called I Love You. There were lots and lots of
Chocolate Watch Band was another one that was really big
Chocolate
back
Watch
then.
Band, Sop with Camel. There were so many one-hit bands.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I joined them after college and toured. But even in those days, you could play a lot of places based on your one hit. And they first said we were from San Francisco because nobody knew. Dionne Warwick hadn't had her hit yet about San Jose. Nobody knew where it was. So, but it opened up some doors, and it was just a good experience. But it made me get off the road way earlier than Keith.
Part of me's still on the road. No, it's good to have a home. It's good to, my wife and I sold our house in the city about a year ago, and we were led here by circumstance, by time, by
Forces of nature.
and also a great house that's on a double lot. So I mean, we got it's all ours, and that's the bank has owned my house, for the last 20 years until I moved up here, and there is a certain freedom that goes with the.
We have fantastic Wendy DeWitt over in Ukiah living there now, who's a monster boogie. In fact,
she is.
I hate
Wendy's
her
good.
left hand. Because it's so good. She's a phenomenal boogie woogie player, and the common thread that I see with all these players is, like all of you out there, most likely love Lake County and the quality of life, despite all of the issues and keeping the lake clear and our fires and all this, difficulty in employment and things. They move up here because of the quality of life. They don't want to leave playing music. They just want to live where you don't have smog and traffic and all the trappings of the city, but they bring their wonderful talent with them. And if we're real lucky, we find one another and create a band.
The first time that I played at the it was at the Grange. Then I had played on Wendy's last record myself, and a trumpet player Tom Poole and trombone player Mike Renta. We played on Wendy's record, and we went over and recorded at our house, and everything was in boxes, and everything was I wondered, wow, what's going on? I said, we bought a 100-year-old church in Ukiah, and we're moving up there in about 3 weeks or something like that. And so the first time I got out of the house, when I got here, Wendy was playing at the Grange, and Pop was there, and he was announcing and hawking beers, and we met, and I gave him my record that night after the show, and he said, I'm subbing for Doc on his jazz show tomorrow, and I'll listen to your record. And he said, yeah, I played it on Doc's show because it's more of a jazz flavor to it. But anyway, the Grange and Wendy and Pop, it all. I'm glad I went out that night.
There you go.
And sat in.
It's kind of funny because he came in with that CD and gave it to me. And then my wife heard you playing at the Library Park.
Yes.
And she said, oh, my God, I know Doc's going to really like that. So she bought one of your CDs. but that one you signed. And,
I'm definitely. I got my stash CDs, and I got my Sharpies, and I got my little thing to open.
It is
up
a really good CD, by the way.
Oh man, that shrink wrap is. I was told never. Publicists, don't send me your records. I'll send them to the radio stations. No shrink wrap. They'll just let it sit there, and they'll put a cup of coffee on it, or anyway.
And I promise everybody that I will make sure that Keith brings a lot of copies of that CD to the Big Valley Hall for people to purchase. And
so there you go. You guys are good at chance.
I get plenty of them.
And he will sign them. He will sign them, and I'll bet you he'll give a portion of the proceeds to the benefit.
Oh yeah.
See, told
there
you.
you go. So you killed two birds with one stone. You make everybody happy, and you get some great music.
That's where it goes at this gig.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
It should be a real fun time.
I think it's also important to mention our drummer, who couldn't be here today, is Tim Schellenberger. We're really happy to have him. He's just a phenomenal drummer. And our bass player, David Falco, who is fairly new to us, but he's not new to Lake County. He was part of Bill Notman and the Rockets. He still is when Bill plays, and he's played with David Neft for a long time.
Since the early 80s.
So there's 6 of you in the group?
There's 7. There's also Michael Jim who is our guitar player.
Oh, okay.
Mikey G, who's been playing for... How old is he? He's been playing for 80 years, even though he's only 65.
They're all older than me, so I know they're pretty old.
He adds a wonderful element for our funk, and he's a great front man as well. And he will definitely get everybody dancing.
Very good.
And Tim Schellenberger, the drummer, as time went on, I found out little by little that he's a Frank Zappa scholar. He knows all the Zappa stuff, and he can quote this or that. And I went, oh, I'm going to listen to this guy a little bit more. That's one of the.
He's our shaman.
Yeah, it's an eclectic.
Watch out
Is
where
that
the
right
Huskies
word?
go.
Eclectic mix in this band.
That's
Just,
the right
you
word,
know,
definitely.
But it's the sum. What is it? The sum together is different than is better than this individual of what we bring. When we cohesively work as a band, it's just magic.
I agree.
Yeah, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
We
We
do.
really enjoy playing with each
Ain't
other.
that the
Yeah.
a hard
I'm
one to
curious.
find?
Yeah.
Growing up, I know you guys listened to radio because we all did. No, you never listened to any radio?
Raised on it. Yeah.
I used to listen to records most of the time,
Ah,
and
okay.
all my friends made fun of me because I used to go down to Divisadero and Fillmore and buy old blues albums and play them, and they'd laugh at me. Oh, you listen to that stuff? Oh, man. And then all of a sudden, Led Zeppelin came to the United States, and they're going, listen to this, and I'm putting on Lead Belly, and all these guys are going, oh, they copied Led Zeppelin, and no.
No.
Yeah.
I go back to the classic. Now you got it. Some of you out there I know did this, and that's at night. You're supposed to be in bed. You had a 9-volt transistor radio, and you had it under your pillow. And I could get, if I was careful on certain nights, I could get Wolfman Jack
On the skip cycle. I know it well.
They could say
Yes.
50,000 watts of soul power.
I wish
Remember
we
that?
had
Yes.
50,000.
Oh, yeah.
watts.
And I heard that's how I got into rhythm and blues and funk
Yeah.
and all that stuff. 'Cause
I was living on a houseboat in 1967 in Sausalito, and me and a buddy, a one-room houseboat, and he had a transistor radio. And if we could catch I heard it was called a skip cycle, but if you could, WKRV, whatever
Yes,
the,
WKRV.
yeah, if you could catch it, if the weather was right, and the moon was in the right phase.
You can hear 'em out, yeah.
Are you naked? Yeah.
But,
great.
Yeah, he was to R&B as probably pop music was. Dick Clark?
Yeah.
He really. He had Well, that's that audience. Even our hero, my hero, B.B. King, had a radio show in the late 40s.
Yeah, he did. He was a DJ down in the what they call the Chitlin circuit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something I didn't know that. That's a
Yeah.
good piece of news.
I believe in biography that's one of the first
That they talk
things, and he had the call numbers of the radio station. They were
right.
on his guitar.
That's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember leaving the radio on all night, and especially so I could wake up and hear Russ the Moose Syracuse do the farm report about 5:30 in the morning. I was in his Daffy
KYA or
Duck.
KFRC?
Well, yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
Daffy Duck and all these cartoon characters, and then here comes Russ and with the corn prices for the wheat bushels.
That's a name I hadn't thought about in I don't know how many years.
Oh man,
Yeah.
he was. I just leave the radio on.
Gene Nelson, all those guys.
Yeah,
I remember
Gene.
those.
Yeah.
Going back to the.
Going back.
There were two.
That was before you were born, honey.
They had a KYA Golden Gate Greats, and they make these compilation albums. And on this album was like the first hit of Neil Diamond. We're all in the show at the Cow Palace. They all came out and did like one song. And they had the Lover's Concerto with the Toys, and they had Sonny and Cher doing Little Latin. No, they had the Righteous Brothers, Little Latin Looky Lou.
Oh, yeah.
And Sonny and Cher was probably I Got You, Babe, or one of their. Nobody knew these people. They were just like little flashes, and it looks like they're coming up the charts. And gosh, and in that company was Syndicate of Sound because they had their one hit one. It was a really strange but magical time.
Well, I remember the KLAV. That was the big radio station, the pop radio station in San Jose, and playing the Gollywogs. And I was in a band in high school, and we used to cover the song Fight Fire, and then there was another one, but these were written by John Fogerty, and then the Gollywogs became Syndicate of Sound.
No,
they became
Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
We used to go down to the original Fantasy Records on 16th and Treat, and Max and Saul Weiss owned the joint. It was like a rambling warehouse, and all the thousands of Cal Jader, all these, and it was all vinyl. And I remember Brown Eyed Girl. That was one of the Gollywog songs. And then then later on they became Syndicate of Sound. And we used to go and hang out, and Max would let us hang out. Max was a real character. And I remember one time there was a hippie band in there, and they were playing, and they're doing some song, and it's like, 10 minutes long. And Max's credo was 2-3 minutes tops.
Get out of there.
And then he'd play it on the worst little speaker, and and he said, do you know what these guys are doing? And it's Country Joe and the Fish. They're it's some new kind of stuff that they're said, I don't know, this
it'll never
10
last.
13-minute songs.
You got to remember the Warlocks.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what did they become?
Yeah, they were
Dead.
Grateful Dead.
Okay.
Now, when I was
13
years old, I lived in Sebastopol. When I grew up in Sebastopol, and my neighbors were these hippies that went to Sonoma State College, and basket weaving courses and stuff. Really serious students. And they played music, and they had their friends come over, and their friends came over and played music. And I'm a kid, I'm 13, but I love music, and I'm learning how to play guitar, and I've been playing the flute for a while, and so I'm hanging out with these older guys and their girlfriends playing music. And there's this one guy and his friends that kept coming over and playing music, and he was teaching me a little bit on guitar, and I thought, well, you're really good. You should be in a group. And he said, I am. And I said, oh, which one? And he goes, the Warlocks. And I said, oh, that sounds like a good name. What's your name? And he said, Jerry. And I said, oh, okay. I had no idea who I was talking to.
Legend.
And his friends,
The founder.
and
Wow.
I just thought they were nice guys
Oh,
who
sure.
were helping a kid out on guitar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny when
They were.
the
They were, yeah.
clouds clear a little bit as time goes on. You go, wow, yeah, gee, that was something.
Yeah.
Well, Joni was actually mentored by Kate Wolfe for years, which was as a young girl starting up performing, and wow, I was.
Yeah, Kay was local in Sebastopol area, so she was kind of a legend. And I went for a talent show with my friend when I was 13 at the Vets Memorial Building in Sebastopol after the Apple Blossom Fair, and we had the parade. Yeah, and then I went down to the building and did my little very nervous singing of a song that I wrote, and she came up to me afterwards and said, you have a really nice voice. If I help you with it, would you sing with me at the coffee shops? And I said, yeah. So she just encouraged me and helped me get that noise to come out of me the right way, and that's when I started. She
great.
just kind of pushed me into it, and she was mentoring me. She was a wonderful person.
And there still is a yearly festival
Oh, yeah.
up by Eureka up in Mendocino County.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
played with I played on that a couple of times with
right.
Taj Mahal. I played in the flute, and so yeah, it was a lot of fun. She was a wonderful person. Really happy to have met her. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All of us have many. You get musicians talking, and we just.
I mean, who else played at the Blue Unicorn, man?
Where is that now? The Blue. That's not a good name for a band.
It's in the clouds somewhere. Yeah. So,
That'd be a good
just a folk club, I used to play at the place called the Cedar Alley Coffee House. When the 5-6-piece rock and roll band, when the work kind of went, we went down to 3-piece, and we play the Drinking Gourd and the Mother Lode and Freight and Salvage when it was just a little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And they didn't hire us because we did Crosby, Stills and Nash and stuff like that. We didn't realize that the Freight and Salvage was
Really a folk.
That was folk. That was Americana.
Pretty
Not just,
acoustic
yeah,
and-
great fellas. Go back over to South City. To Burlingame.
Play great music,
and,
but it's not a mix.
yeah.
Not a match for us.
Not here.
Yeah. Trying to think of when we were. I played also all these years and still play. We do about 3 things a year with Bill Notman and the Rockets, and we had wonderful experiences opening for major acts at Canocti. We're name dropping is B.B. King, and had a wonderful. I'll never forget having chicken in the dressing room with B.B. He was very shy, actually, very humble, and just a gentleman. And Steve Miller and Tower Power. I mean, my two dream bands for the blues was B.B. King, and for funk and soul was, having grown up in Oakland originally, was Tower Power. And then I find myself in Lake County being in the opening act for them on a great, great venue at the time. That was a dream come true. Just pinch yourself the next morning and say, did that really happen to me?
Well, I was playing college jazz band, a College of San Mateo jazz band, and the end of the year concert, and we had a guest high school band, and it was the Westmore High School Jazz Band, and with the student conductor and arranger. Okay.
Greg Adams, maybe?
Greg Adams, yes. And so the band's great. Greg's great. And
I understood.
next year, I'm coming to this college, man, because anyway. But during the summertime, I guess
Something happened.
yeah, he met the doc and
Castillo.
the boys, yeah, because he was in Tower, and boy, I mean, the arrangements that he could write, you know, there was a lot of talent in the big band in the public school, because 5 days a week, and you had a jazz band, you had a concert band, you had the community supporting the music programs, and there was a lot of.
And we were meant to be together, Keith, because I'm going to Hayward State, which became Cal State University, and then Cal State University, and then now it's called East Bay University. There was a phenomenal trumpet player coming up the ranks in the music department that I was in back in the college years. And he left college, I think it was his third year, because he was joining a band called Tower of Power. This guy's name was Mick Gillette, who became their lead trumpet for years, off and on, until he passed. I think he died about 2 years ago, but he had always been their kind of go-to. That screech trumpet at the top at the very end of the song, that's him. You know.
Well, Tom Pohl, at the end of every gig that we played a lot of gigs with Tommy Castro, a lot of different people over the years. But, okay, and the gig would be over, but starting to put their stuff away, and Tom would go, and everyone would go, whoa, like, no, the gig's over. It's a joke. It's a gotcha. You know?
There you go.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's really surprising. You know, it's people look to the talent in California and they automatically think L.A. And right here, we can probably name more people that we have played with and grew up here in Northern California, and it's amazing. I mean, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should have been in San Francisco. I mean, I really think
Hey,
so.
Cleveland's all right.
No, I agree.
Cleveland is good, but
I do agree with it.
I remember.
If you stay at Swingos in Cleveland, you'll be okay.
But
great history here.
Yeah, there was another guy that was going to join the CSM Jazz Band, and Michael Shreve. And then the summer went by, and the next thing, he was in Santana. And after that, a friend of mine, I was playing in a band, and he'd gotten into Eastern religious, was going to sing a guru, a teacher, and and Michael Shreve was seeing the same teacher. He called himself Maitreya at that time. But anyway, we got a chance to do a session with him playing, because he was buddies with the guy in the band I was in. But man, when a guy can hit, boy, and they can really. Whew.
was that back in the Shadowfax days?
That was pre-Shadowfax.
Pre-Shadowfax, wow. Yeah.
It's just in and out of everybody. The Early Syndicate version of them, the drummer went on to be with Eddie Money. His name is David Donza. And David Donza took lessons from a legendary black drum teacher in the Bay Area named Chuck Wright, if I remember correctly. And his prize student was a drummer named Dave Garibaldi, who became Tower's drummer.
Right.
And who's got among the best chops, everybody thinks of Towers horns as this the big thing. They have a rhythm section, always have had, that is just
Roscoe, yeah,
as best you could ever
yeah.
be. I mean, their chops and their
Not
ability.
bad vocals either.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah,
their
they
harmonies.
always,
They're just
Well,
any singer's going to say yes.
well, you know, Emilio Castillo had the good sense to he knew he had a great band, and I know somebody that went and saw Tower, and Emilio was singing lead. They were in between. And he said, Emilio sounded great.
Oh,
man."
yeah.
But I know I toured and worked with Lenny Williams for 3 years after he had left Tower, and wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what
a
before
voice.
that, Rick Stevens. I mean, how can you find your way through? You're still a young man, you know, with
incredible.
that well and make such a classic.
As a vocalist, I can honestly say that the quality of musicians that you play with make your vocals what they become. I felt very fortunate as a high school student playing with a guitar player today named Freddie Clark. And if you get a chance to hear Wobbly World, it's amazing. But we used to do Battle of the Bands with a band called The Righteous Ones. It's Jorge Santana's old band, and before Malo. And but the quality of music at that time was good. I mean, you had high school bands that were pro quality. I mean, you know.
We were having a revelation here because I'm not sure what era it was, but I played my early Farfisa for just a little while in a group in San Francisco called The Righteous Ones. Mm-hmm. I did. And
That was Jorge Santana's old band.
It's got to be him. I mean, it's so many years ago, I'm not going to remember the people in the band, but they were definitely Hispanic mostly.
Yeah.
And I would, go over to the Mission District in San Francisco and definitely feel like they were very protective of me because I was this straight white guy. But it was a good band even then, and we played.
Great band.
It was and we did some good things. One time we did. You go and think it's not going to be fun at all. We had a thing on Treasure Island playing for military folks. Mm-hmm. They were ready to party.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's because of what they did during the day.
It was funny because we'd do Battle of the Bands at all the Ys, the local neighborhood Ys, and when we played a Battle of the Bands at Mission Y, well, of course, Jorge always won because he was from the district. And when we'd play the Golden West Y, we won. that was the Irish district.
Wow.
And it was kind of funny because it was more of a popularity contest, although the musicians... And we had a keyboardist named Jeff Carino, who at 16 years old was instructing classical guitar at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. So we had some really good players with us. And Freddie Clark has a master's degree in music and plays flamenco guitar today. And he's, these guys were good. I mean, I don't know how I got in the band, but they were good.
I would feel we got to compliment our two founders, I call them, in this band. The music business is still also a business, and somebody has to. I used to do it off and on for bands, and trying to do a little for this band as well. But somebody has to promote the band, put together the packages, create. In fact, we're hopeful to create a wonderful video out of this Friday night, which you can watch being created at this gig that we're doing. And Joni especially is really good at the marketing of the band. Somebody has to do it. It doesn't just happen and you just fall into where you're playing. There's competition, as you just heard. There's lots of great musicians around, and I'm never forgetting that we need that part of the puzzle.
Thank you, David. It's a perfect time to plug that we have a website. It's cleansweepband.com.
This is known as Segway, folks.
Yeah. And we will be putting up some of our music on that. Currently, we don't have any there. We're still putting this website together. I say we because it's a group effort, and you're all behind me while I sit on the typewriter and I do
Joni,
that.
is it accessible yet to the public?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So it's been up on the web.
It's Clean Sweep.
Cleansweepband.com.
.com. Cleansweepband.com. You should check it out.
Yeah. And of course, you can always call and book us for gigs. I'll give you the phone number too.
Go right ahead.
It's not a secret. It's 707-548-8578. And all of that information is on the website,
You should probably
cleansweetband.com.
tell them one more time the phone number, though, Joni. Anyway.
707. Get your pencils. Get your pens.
Come on.
Get your little notebook out. 707-548-8578. And again, the website is cleansweetband.com, and all our information is on there. So thank you for mentioning that, David.
Absolutely.
So you guys
It's
got to
all
come
part of
out.
the
You got to
family.
come and hear him Friday night because you'll have a great time. And I know Pop and I, from a lot of the gigs we've been putting on and been involved with, everybody's telling us we want to dance. Well, this is a band that I know for a fact you can dance to. So bring your dancing shoes. It's going to be a good one. And I thought, for a change, instead of just asking everybody here questions and doing that, it'd be kind of nicer just to get kind of to know who the people in the band are. You'll feel a whole lot different about when you see them, I think, instead of just asking. I could ask them, who did you like? Where did you play? But I think this is way better. And I really appreciate you guys for coming in here. And we can just keep this up for as long as you want, as far as I'm concerned. So,
And even you musicians out there can come and dance. I know most of the musicians I know don't dance
Right.
unless you're up there singing, leading, doing the splits.
And I
We
think-
we don't know how to dance.
well, see, that's not true at all, because I happen to have a whole lot of friends that are musicians, and I end up having to dance with all of their girlfriends.
Because they won't dance. Well, it's a I believe optional costume party. So
It is.
you musicians, you could dress up. No one will know who you are.
That's
And
right.
then when they say dance like no one's looking or knows, they won't know who you are, and you could just have a great time and dance. So here's your opportunity.
That's it.
It should be a real fun time. And I believe Pops is also, I know he's cooking up some nice food for the band, but I think he's doing the food at this event as well.
I think
something like that.
I know that you guys are going to get fed a good meal by him. That was
Yeah.
that was part of the deal that we had going on. As far as everybody else, I don't quote me on the people out there. I believe it's a potluck, though, like most of the events are.
I see.
And so probably people will bring things, and there'll be things. But mostly there will be drinks. Well, there'll be beer and there'll be wine, guaranteed. And there'll be sodas and water also. And
That sounds almost biblical.
well, yeah.
There will be wine.
There will be wine.
be beer.
Thou shalt be wine.
I didn't make it, so it's going to be good.
And we'll bless it and turn it into water. There
There you go. And you got to be there to see
know,
that.
And we'll turn the water into wine.
And I understand it's again, it's 7 to 10, and it's only $10, I think.
Yes, it is.
And that, of course, goes to the causes of the both the renovation, the continuing renovation, I believe, of the hall that we're playing in, as well as Hope City. So you can't go wrong with the causes, and improving the venue just means a nicer place for not only our band but lots of bands to play.
Yeah, and we're planning on doing as many, more and more and more that we can do. So if you're enjoying it, you should really come support the whole thing. You'll hear great music, and hey,
There's plenty of parking as well.
and there's lots
Yes.
of parking, which is really nice, and it's well covered in now, and it'll be warm because I think it's going to be raining. But it's going to be warm, and we've had it rain a lot worse than that last year when we did some gigs
No
there.
kidding.
So it should be a really good evening. I think it should be really worth going to.
And with the record number of, at least in my world, 100-plus days of this last summer, it's about the hottest one I remember. Welcome rain is okay.
Oh, yeah, we want the rain. It's good. It's not a bad thing.
As long as you keep the amplifiers out of it.
Yeah, and the microphones.
Yeah. A shocking experience.
Yeah.
Could be.
I love the fact that I keep hearing these wonderful stories, and they never are repeats. They're all new stories to me. Keith is the consummate story man. It's amazing. The people he's played with, we'll ask him, Keith, do you know this song? Oh, yeah, I played it with the Coasters or the Drifters. And I'm like, who have you not played
What was
with?
the other day?
I've been very fortunate to be sent different places and to know different people who, hey, how would you like to play the original Stax charts for with the Drifters, with the Coasters, with Mary Wells, with Sam Moore?
Oh, God, geez, I just hate that.
When I was in a house band at Slim's, I got to play with Big Jay McNeely. I mean, and then when I played with this band Stompy Jones about a year ago, they played swing music. Very, very good band. But we played this. Oh yeah, I mean, this is by Big Jay McNeely, and it was like, no one here has ever. No, I play with Big J.
Yeah.
And he had his glow-in-the-dark saxophone, and we all walked around the whole club and on the bar with Big J, and then he laid down on his back and played like in the Picture in Life magazine or something like that. Yeah.
So I believe you have either a new dog or have a dog now, or did have. What's the story on the dog?
Petey. Petey.
Petey is my current best buddy, my wife and I.
This is a new dog?
Well, to us.
To you. A new dog to you.
So 5 years.
So that gets a discussion going through our texting, because we're a real hip band now doing texting all the time.
A lot of social media.
Social. And we get to talking about songs that had... I get asked now and then to play How Much Is That Doggy in the Window when I'm playing solo piano. But we get to talking about, I'll Be Doggone, I happen to name it. He comes out and says, by the way, did you know that was sung originally by...
Marvin Baye.
Yeah, I mean, he knows trivia
an animal joke.
Yeah, an animal joke. Marvin Baye. So,
well, there's... on my record, the record starts off with the dog barking. It kind of counts it off.
Actually, it does.
Wolfe. But it's called Turks Groove because Turk was my dog at the time. But I went to a buddy's house and he had... I was making demo tapes for the record, and so I could take him to the studio for the real deal. And my friend Ted, he's real brilliant with a computer. Great guitar player. Great. I've known him for years, and he's good. Does crossword puzzles, New York Times with a pen, stuff like that. Anyway, he's got Pro Tools, and so I said, I want to call the song Turks Groove, and he had a dog named anyway.
Yeah.
I said, can your dog, your Wolf Schmidt, bark on command or something? And he said, all we need is one. Because I said, this song is called Turks Groove. I want it to start off with a dog barking. So, go ahead. Woof. That's all I need. I got Pro Tools.
Right.
So then he went, woof, woof, woof. So that's the Turks Groove.
So those of you that buy that CD, another plug, you'll hear how it starts.
Now we have another song that we're working on called that we've been performing called Petey's Walk, named after your dog Petey. But now you're evolving that into something else.
Well,
correct?
we've been taking Petey for walks at Austin Park, downtown Clear Lake, my wife and I. And I brought this instrumental song to the band, and you have working titles. So, I put it on my buddy Ted's on his in a file on his computer, and I called it Cleo something, because it was like Cleo's back, that kind of groove. And so I'm walking at the park one day with my dog, and I said, I'm going to call that Petey's Walk. It's a good working title, and it kind of reminds me of and then now through artistic license, it has now become Lake Life. I heard people. I was playing with this guy Tommy Rocks at the Richmond Park Bar and Grill, and it's built over the lake. And he would hire me if we weren't working. He'd say, "Hey, can you come do 4th of July weekend or Labor Day?" There'd be a lot of people there that, and they tie their boats up, and then they come in and they eat and they drink and they dance and a couple of times I heard some guys going, "Here's to lake life. You can't beat it living up here by the lake." And so I thought, that's a good. And I started to write a sultry, middle of the night lake life, and we're in the middle of playing Petey's Walk, and I thought, hey, this groove. This is lake life right here. It's up. It's where, you don't need the slow. This has got a bounce to it. It's got a.
Yeah.
It's funny.
We have a wonderful ballad of B.B. King's that we do of, what is it? Our slow one. I love. Please accept my love. And you get to hear Pat belt the tune. Like a torch song to me, really. We drape him over my keyboard with a red rose. and lean back and say,
"Your poor keyboard."
my woman done left me, or one of those, great. In this one, he's just accolades of he can't live without this woman.
There's a story behind that if you want me to quickly tell it.
I would love it. Sure.
Okay. When I first met Pat, it was at the Blues Society in Sonoma County. I was there with a friend, a bass player who was sick, and I wanted to spend some time with my friend. Well, Pat just was like a little puppy following me around. I guess he had a crush on me, and I didn't know who this guy was. I thought, he's stalking me,
I was gonna say, yeah.
So
He's stalking me.
I went out to the parking lot with my friend to say goodbye to my friend. I put him in the car, and I said goodbye, and I turned around, and he followed me out to the parking lot, and he starts singing me this song. And I'm being polite because I don't know what kind of a scary guy this guy might be. So I just kind of smiled at him and said, "Oh, that's nice. You know, I want to be nice to this crazy man who followed me out."
You better be nice. Just go along and play.
Later on, I realized, after getting to know him a little bit, he's actually a very nice guy. And so we developed a relationship after that where I wasn't afraid of him anymore. In fact, now I would say he's more afraid of me than I am him.
With good reason.
Smart man.
But that's where that song comes from. So he sings it to me when he sings that song. Yeah.
Joni is a master builder, believe it or not. One of the many titles that she has. She has looks like a broken finger. She's showing the.
Yeah, you'd never know from my broken finger.
Yeah, you can't see it right now, folks, but that's from her.
It's pretty broken.
It is, but I did accomplish building a lot of things this summer before I broke the finger.
Can you play your
Swimming pool?
I cannot play my flute. So Keith is stepping in, and I'm honored to have him do that because he's an amazing flute player, and I'm just kind of learning again. He's encouraging me. That's the one thing great about these guys. They encourage me to keep trying and improving and striving, and I love it. It's great. It's great.
Well, there's nothing like being in the middle of a song, and over the months you've kind of hinted at this part and hinted at that part. David and I look at each other playing backup parts, or Mikey, the guitar player, and then one night, comes together. And there's the line that goes right here. There's the background part that goes right there, and it's nice to have people who listen, who care about playing together, who can play dynamics. I've
heard of those.
It's no longer a town in Ohio. Yeah, it's actually. But that's why I feel very fortunate that Bernie sent Pat an email. And
Fate allowed us to fall together.
Definitely was fate.
And form a family. And believe me, it is a family.
The funny part about that email from Bernie is Bernie sent this email. He goes, "We had this guy came up last night, and he was playing with Nancy Wright, and he was playing sax, and he's moved up here to Lake County, and he's not bad.
He's not bad."
And then he tells me his name, and I go, "Oh God, I've known Keith Crossan since the '80s." You know, I'm like, yeah, I know who he is.
He used to play at the Sweetwater was my home club in Mill Valley, and Sundays was quite a scene. This guy Peter Walsh, Peter Walsh and friends, and this girl Ronnie Raines, great singers.
Pamela
Rose and Glenn Walters playing drums, and Michael White playing bass, or Tim Eshelman, Ozzy Allers on piano.
Yeah.
Oh man,
He's playing that little upright piano at the end of the bar.
Well,
He played some boogie woogie on it, and he'd play. Oh, he was good.
but it was a real scene. I mean, it went on for a couple of years. Herb Cain came up and played the drums. Sam Shepard came up and played the drums, and just various people. It was a lot of fun. And Sean Hopper from Huey Lewis, we all knew each other, and we'd all play together and hang out in those days in Marin County. And come in on a Sunday, and there's a B3 all set up on one side of the stage. You know, all right, Sean's here today. I mean, because there's so many
B3 is
people
the
that could
quintessential Hammond organ.
Man, and
There's a story.
too.
There's a story about that too, and it involves Keith, because he used to be doing his solo on sax, and he'd step off the stage and he'd walk around the bar, and he'd walk up to the women's room door and kick it open, walk in the women's room, and come back out, And to this day, he swears he never got lucky. He swears.
I never got slapped. That's when I.
Well, okay, then you were.
Well, he did get lucky.
Yes, I did. I lived to tell about it. Yeah,
Jeez.
it was just part of the show, part of the act.
And if
It was
sometimes he
great.
still does that, guys.
Yeah.
Ladies out there.
But I try to avoid the ladies' room.
We are.
these days.
I am telling people I'm one of the members of our. I like everybody and everybody's very talented, but I'm. If I ever needed any doubt about whether to get back into a relatively full-time band like this is becoming, it's having Keith join, because he really does raise. I don't want to make him turn nice and red here in the room, but he raises the bar when you know you're playing with someone who's just played with so many great legendary players. I feel like I better do my part to make sure this band stays on it, and so he has a great band to be in.
Keith didn't just play with legendary players.
He was in them.
Keith in this industry is a legendary player.
Well, that's true.
Let me check with my broker here.
No pressure.
See if all this is true.
No pressure. Right?
Well, and to say also that Mikey Jim has played with so many people too.
Yes,
and,
he has
and
as well.
So the talent in this band,
Southern California,
it's
yeah.
just amazing, and how well we all get along, and how well we all gel together and compliment each other and encourage each other. It's just a phenomenal group of people. 7 people who actually get along, and we all feel like we're family.
And some of that comes, if we're honest with ourselves, I think I was certainly a lot more edgy when I was younger and things, and less tolerant. But we also, when everybody was younger, we always seemed to have, like, if there were 5 people in the band, there was always one that was late, or that forgot his cymbals, or do you have a chord?
At one point in my life, oh boy.
Anybody got a spare mic? I mean, that kind of stuff, and just or just a Looney Tuner, where and which of course can be rather symbolic of what they used to say, a well-adjusted, mature individual musician. Those words never went together.
No.
They just did not, except in rare instances. And now I think everybody's just been through enough life to where we know what we should be and what we should bring to the band, despite just musical talent, is a responsibility.
Yeah, well said.
And so that you're remembering that you still owe it to your audiences to be what they're paying, if they're paying to get in. Whether we're donating our time or not, we owe everybody a good show every time we play.
And this is KPFZ 88.1 FM, Lakeport. I'm Doc. You're listening to the R&B Review, and I'm sitting here talking with the band Clean Sweep.
Yeah, we appreciate you giving us this time to
Yes.
sit and talk about ourselves. It's been awesome.
My pleasure.
Thank
I
you.
think it's great.
I was going to say, we're all a bunch of yackers, so his job is pretty easy.
Oh, you made my job really easy.
In fact, you should see him. He keeps trying to interrupt to say something, and we pay no attention to him.
Shine 'em on.
We should take questions, I guess. I don't know. We've just been talking.
This was better. I think, anyway. Very relaxed.
Stream of
and-
consciousness.
Yeah, and then our audience gets to really kind of know what's going on with you guys. More who you are than just, I could have said, well, who did you like playing music when you grew up, and who do where do you play, and what kind of music, and they're going to find that out anyway.
That's it.
So this is much better in my opinion. You get to know the band a little.
Well, boy, how many we have like an eon between us here as far as combined years of music and
we came up with at
experiences
least
and
300,
people
yeah.
we played
We
with.
came up with 350 years of experience
There
in
you
one
go,
band.
guys.
Ooh.
So that's right.
Like Methuselah of music.
So it's for those of us at my age, it's getting toward nap time, folks. I'm at the age where that can be the highlight of the day. Really, I just
Now, anytime can be nap time.
yeah, that's right.
There's
But
3
not from 7 to 10 this Friday.
No.
We'll be kicking it.
Doors open at 6,
and,
so you can come a little early, watch the band set up if you want to.
We'll take a nap earlier in the day.
Good.
That's right. And we'd love it if any of you listening to this come up and say you listened. And I think I did a real estate thing in my other life on this station, and I had a number of people come up and discuss questions and continue on with things we were talking about and stuff. And I was there's a maybe a not so silent amount of people out there that listen to this show.
It's actually kind of surprising to me also. So I'll be places and they'll go, I know that voice.
There you go.
And I'm going,
It's the doc man. Good for you.
At Safeway when I'm in line, Hey, I saw you at the. Didn't you play with the?
So we'll ask you questions. How long have you been here?
Here at KPFZ,
Yeah.
9 years.
9 years. How did you find them, or them you?
Well, actually, in the beginning, Pop and I had a show together. And how that happened is he came over to my house and he said, come on, you're going with me. I go, where are we going? I had no idea. And he goes, we're going to the radio station. I go, to do what? He goes, we have a show. I go, we don't have a show. He goes, yes, we do. And that was the beginning of it. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do this. Well, now I've got 2 shows.
Well, one thing that I've seemed to feel is all the different kinds of shows and what you play, what Pop plays, what the Philadelphia Lawyer talks about. What you guys seem to have a freedom to, one thing I haven't told or talked to the Philadelphia Lawyer guy, his choice of music is just
Ron,
it's great. Yeah. And also, if I call up Pop, if I manage to stay up that late and I call up Pop on a Thursday night, hey, how you doing? It's Keith Crossan. Hey, man, I got your record right here. And then we'll talk about this or that for, 30, 40 seconds till it's, and I pretty much can count on that before the end of the show, I'll get to hear a song off my record.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell you, being raised on radio, as it were, and having such a major impact in your life, and especially when you're younger, and I remember going up to KSFO with some demo tape that we'd done at the early fantasy records and all faking English accents and, trying to get them to play this. But to hear a song off my record on the radio is, I guess it's the ultimate in vanity.
Pretty cool.
Enjoying.
Speaking of Ron Green, he gave us one of the greatest compliments after he had watched the band when we played up Smiling Dog Ranch.
Yeah.
And he made a comment on Facebook saying that at the time he was watching the band and playing, and he said, by far the best band in Lake County. And I'm just like,
what a great compliment. Yeah.
What a compliment. It
really
felt so good. And we just...
Because there's so many great bands in Lake County.
Well, there's so many great
and
players. A little bit of moving around that I did, playing, ask them to come a little bit late at one of our gigs so I could go play with Barry Melton at the Soparis. And, in the first half hour of the last show that he did. It's a lot of talent up here and a lot of established and people that have been around
It's
the block.
actually really amazing that a little community like ours has all this talent. I mean, it really is amazing.
Yeah, we had the Doobie Brothers drummer live for quite a while. I think he's passed. Can't think of his name right now.
Nixon?
No, another one of them.
John Hartman.
No, another one.
You said Michael Hassick?
Mike Hassick.
Hassick, he's the one.
Is he still around?
I don't know.
I thought that he wasn't with us anymore. I'm not really sure about that, but that's what I thought.
No, he lived over in Buckingham.
Yeah,
right.
Because he bought a house that I almost bought.
Right. Oh, okay. And there are others like that with huge, would leave. In fact, Andre Williams has a nightclub now in Lakeport, and he
drinks.
He was. I saw a video of the heyday. In fact, he was in the Grammy Awards many years ago. It was opened at the height of MC Hammer fame.
Well, that's like what's his? I'm forgetting his last name right now. Robert that plays guitar. I mean,
Robert Watson.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Well, he was the rhythm guitar player for James Brown for years.
But I mean, you give him a bass or a guitar or anything, he's just amazing.
Yeah, he's an amazing musician. Yeah. But I think the thing is that most of these they're fantastic musicians around, but they freelance. They haven't put a project together that they want, but they don't want to put the time into it either. They're retired. In fact, Robert went and did the European tour of the James Brown Review, and he's gone for months. And but
and then comes back. I think if it's the same guy, I believe he's running a Sunday jam right now, at Buster's Barbecue in
Calistoga.
Oh, okay.
Have you guys been over there? That's a pretty cool scene over there.
I believe
actually,
he's the host of
musically.
that. I think.
Oh, wow.
I believe that's right.
I was afraid that was going to burn down, but I guess hopefully it didn't. I guess.
Well, they were afraid the whole town was going to burn.
Amazing artist. I mean, he really is. He's and he plays a lot with local. He plays with Twice as Good quite a bit, and
that's right.
Yeah, and so he's
the bass player.
He's the bass player.
Yeah, he's a monster.
He is.
Man, big bass.
Yeah,
killer, dynamite guy.
He's got a great sound on his bass and his guitar. I mean,
does.
he's just through the roof a great musician. Yeah.
Well, it seems like if you choose to be a professional musician at a certain age, 18, 19, something, you got to go one way or the other. I was, it was baseball or music for me. And then when, the varsity coach said, no, cut your hair shorter. And by the way, you can't play any music during baseball season. Well, I went, it's music, okay. And then I went to the jazz jam, and what do you want to do? I'll just take some solos, man. No, what do you want to do, man? No, you guys go. Hey, if you can't cut it, you shouldn't be up there. Oh, the jazz jam. Oh, my goodness. I go to the rock and roll jam, and they go, look, it's Keith Crosby just came in the door. Get out your horn, man. Come on up and play. And I kind of went, I know where I'm going.
Wow.
But it's good to learn early. But I get the point of it was a instrument will find its way into your hands some ways. A sax, a guitar, a keyboard. When I was 18, I needed another horn, and I was playing in a garage band. Oh, my uncle's got one. He played it in high school. And I got, for $50 when I was 18, I got this Con 10M, and made in 1938, and they made it with a bigger bell, and it's a bigger sound. And I think it was probably to compete with those darn trumpet players, because, big band, they were the, but to this day, that's my horn, and the craftsmanship, everything is done so well. And one day a tone came out of that thing when I was about 19 years old. I don't know where, but and then most of the people that I know that have chosen this profession, they've got some kind of instrument that somehow found its way. The good works of the cosmos, or whatever, however you.
I think that for me, my family always played music. My mother always played piano, and so she always encouraged us to learn music. So we were like the Van Trapp, Von Trapp family? Yeah, where they always sat around and sang, and that's what we did. We didn't have TV. We were very poor, but we had a piano.
I think I saw your family crossing the top of Cobb Mountain.
Yeah, that was us. We were practicing for the Alps. Yeah. But yeah, my father played any instrument you handed him. Harmonica, clarinet. Now he plays an upright tub bass. But he plays really well.
Another amazing instrument.
One thing, we were very lucky, some of us, that we went to public school and they had a music class.
Grandma, there was the Montgomery Ward catalog, and there was good, better, and best. And Grandma got me the best. Alto sax when I was 11. So, because you got to, if an instrument is not good, or you're not aware of maintenance on it and stuff, especially as a kid, you can go, I've had it with this thing, it's squeaking, it's not, and you just don't know, you got to take it to the repairman, and okay, I'm back.
Yeah, there was no charge. I remember fourth grade I started playing flute. And it was just part of the school curriculum. We were just really lucky that way. I didn't know that other kids didn't get that in private school unless they signed up for it. But we didn't have to pay for it. Luckily, I had a teacher who made us learn how to play every instrument in the band. We had to take it home for 2 weeks, learn how to at least play a scale.
A lot of that going around in public schools many years ago.
And so it was a great introduction.
Now we're lucky if they have a music program in school.
Exactly.
Very,
My favorite story, though, about musical instruments is Joni wanted a guitar for Christmas one year, and her parents got her this little play guitar, and she only wanted it for one reason. That was to El Kabong, her brother.
And I did.
I did.
And I was 3 years old. I got this guitar, and I'm like, oh, goody. And I walked over and banged my older brother on the head with it.
Well, it's
Like,
got
oh,
a
come
nice
on.
handle, you know, the
Yeah.
feel to it.
I don't recommend doing
Good
that.
tone.
yeah.
No,
That
don't
bong.
do that at home.
No, it's like Soupy Sales telling the kids to take the green stuff out of their parents' wallet on
green stuff, yeah.
New Year's Eve day, and just address it to this
Soupy
number.
Sales. There's
and
another
nail
name of
it
the
out.
fast.
Yeah.
Why don't we play one of Keith's songs?
Yeah, we can cue that up.
Can we do that?
I don't have a
Oh, we
CD
did.
with me
Oh,
here.
we're,
You have to run down.
we have to run in the car.
Yeah, I'd have
I
to
thought
go
it
all
was
the way
here
to
in the
car.
archives.
No, I
Sorry.
carry all of mine, but today I didn't bring it because I was at an interview. I didn't know if it was. I don't know if I should actually. We could,
Okay, we'll just do it a cappella. Ready?
This is
1, 2, 1, 2. No. Yeah, there's the start.
you guys can do it. Come on.
Yeah. So on a quick story, I'm a great believer in a lot of things have to fall right for at least for me. I was blessed with a good ear, but if I didn't have nurturing parents, and both have passed now, that found the money, and we were not a wealthy growing up at all, to pay for piano lessons and have an old upright, and then be willing to upgrade to, I think in those days it was about $1,500 to get a really decent spin-it piano. And then a lot of practicing and smart decisions. When I wanted to quit after starting at 10 years old, I wanted to quit and play baseball like everybody else was doing because I was getting tired of practicing. My mom did the right thing, and that's burst into tears. and even worse, said, okay, through her sobbing, she said, your teacher's saying you have so much talent, you could probably go professional someday if you wanted. But you could quit, but you have to tell your teacher. I don't have the heart to tell her. I was very afraid of my teacher. And so I studied 10 more years.
And did that have something to do with getting the girls?
Well, that's the other thing. I've told that story. By around 14, 15 years old, the word got around school that I could play by ear the latest Beach Boys song or Beatles tune, And I Love Her, or whatever the latest song the Beatles were doing. And that got me invited to parties. And in those days, there were no electronic pianos. There were only spinets and either a single seat or a double seat, like a chair type double seat that's seated two. So that cute girl in, 8th grade that I had just was tongue-tied like I am now about saying hello to her, came up and said, can you play that? And that it helped. I was very shy, actually. Can't believe it. Mr. Motormouth now, but yeah, my parents, I don't believe that. If I could get paid by the word, my parents said I could retire when I was 18. But I was very shy when I was very young. Yeah.
We're talking about an old upright piano. I played with this guy named Stu Blank, who's an incredible talent.
Nasty
for
Habits.
About 3 years. I was a Nasty Habit for sure. I mean, we lived it and everything.
That was the
right?
backup name, by the way.
Anyway,
Tommy Castro.
he would play electric organ and stuff, and we'd hold it up, and he'd do all kind of crazy stuff. Incredible singer, though, incredible talent. But one night we played at a club in San Francisco called Mr. Hyde's, and we basically sat down on stools, the guitar player, bass player, drummer, and then Stu sat down at a grand piano that they had in there, and man, I didn't know he could play like that.
Yeah.
The sound that came out of the change from the upright piano to a grand piano. He started playing stuff. The guys in the band were looking at each other and going,
Who is this?
Wow,
Yeah.
this is a whole other genius under the layers of show business.
I've been trying to talk David into buying a grand piano and a bigger car.
Well, how about those roadies?
And then you guys have to haul it around for me. It's like having a real B3. I have a clone, electronic sounding, made by Hammond, but it's like 40 pounds or so, and they've realized that the days of you'd have to have a van and special, and I don't mean women. You have to have dollies, these big huge things, and
you have to have people to work those dollies.
When you're young, it's okay.
It's amazing what you can do when you're young.
We've done it. I've done it with bands and B3s, but yeah.
In this band Shadowfax, I've got this band Shadowfax, and I moved from the city to Marin County. Real good band, excellent band. And this girl, Grace Camelgarn, incredible keyboard player. And always had black lipstick and feathers in her hair and all this. But at 2:30 in the morning, we had to go to our rehearsal studio, which was at the heliport in Sausalito. And the heliport was in an unincorporated area of Marin City. And helicopters took off from there, and they went to SFO and stuff.
Sure.
But upstairs was about 10 rehearsal studios divided by plywood, and 13 stairs up that. And I remember that carrying the B3 at 2:30 in the morning, and it was like a sarcophagus, with the ark in it, or Tutankhamun or something. And it took 4 guys to carry that thing, and you knew exactly how many stairs.
You counted.
And Grace would go, "Be careful, be careful, Grace. You want to carry this thing?"
Yeah.
But
and then you had to go get the Leslie and bring
The
it
Leslie,
up
which
too.
is just about as heavy.
Gee,
Leslie is a certain kind of speaker that has a big whirling drum in the middle of it, and they discovered years ago that was a certain combination, probably popularized by Jimmy Smith and a few others real early.
Yeah.
And it was just like no other sound with percussion and
it's beautiful.
It's the same equivalent of like an upright. By the way, is a grand piano just turned upright but it's nowhere near as good, and the sound is not as true and everything else, and they can do so much more when it's laying flatter and larger. So I'm luckily able to be one of the pianists every year at just people very close to here at the Soper Reese Theater, where they have, it's called the Professional Pianist Concert, and they have a Yamaha, I think it's a 12-foot grand, and it's just magic to play it, and nice. They mic it, and it's like the difference on a funky little saxophone or a really good one like you play.
Next time we play at the Soper Reese, let's ask Mike if we can roll it out.
They roll it. They have a temperature-controlled storage area for it because it's always stored flat, and it's
lacquer
gorgeous.
Black, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's as good. It's as good looking as it is good sounding.
I had music lessons in my life once. My father put me, because I was the only person in our family who could actually carry a tune as a child. And my father wanted me to be a vocalist, so he sent me to a professional vocal teacher who I can't remember her name, but she actually was Johnny Mathis's vocal coach. And I did that from the time I was 6 years old till I was 14, and rock and roll ruined it for me.
Ruined a lot of stuff for a lot of people, but boy, was it fun. Yeah.
It was fun, yeah. My father wanted me to become the next John McCormick, the Irish tenor. Mm-hmm. Didn't happen.
Tweren't meant to be. Well, that's something. Look at I sitting up there. There's a poster here on the wall from Winterland. And one of the bands, I knew Joy of Cooking was great, but they also have up there Cold Blood.
Lydia Pence.
Yeah. And we do one of their songs called When I'm Kissing My Love. Yeah. Good funk song, great to dance to.
I used to see her at the Armory in San Bruno about 1965, and she was the lead singer and had a band of guys all in suits. I don't know if they were the young gentlemen or what, but I mean, she was great then, know. There was I just remember seeing the.
I just could not get over. I saw the album covers and the pictures of Lydia Pence, and I couldn't get over the first time I ever saw her. I still thought she was this beautiful singer. But she was 4 foot nothing. She was so tiny, and this voice that came out of this little girl was just, holy cow!
It really was amazing.
And another one, Ronnie Raines.
Yeah, Ronnie still is. We tried to put Peter Walsh and friends back at the new Sweetwater about 2 years ago. I had my own show at this place, Biscuits and Blues, with my own band. After I put the record out, and I would have every Wednesday play my stuff, then have a special guest. There's so many great blues singers and stuff in San Francisco, and then a jam session after that. But I remember having Peter Walsh. Well, I'll call up Peter and have him be my special guest. And he came and did so much stuff that we had done. I'm Cutting In on You with Johnny Guitar Watson, and just a lot of older stuff, but it still sounded great. It's still,
still great stuff.
Yeah. And so we got it going, and we did 2 Sweetwaters, but Peter, I just said, my heart ain't.
Yeah.
It's not here. And all these people were showing up. You know, Ronnie was there, and Pamela Rose was there, and Terry O'Dabi, new talent. You know, it was starting to be a scene again, but you can't go back sometimes.
Sometimes it's hard to get that magic, you know. But we're trying to reproduce it right here.
Well, it's a different magic, though. It's you know, it's a feel that we all have, but we're all musicians that are come from different spaces and done different things, played with different people, and melding it all together is really a blast. I mean, I'm loving the heck out of it.
I'm on a long leash, and that's
we give everybody a lot of free rein, and we really do elements of jazz and funk and soul, and at the heart is blues, and
that's one of the things I tell every player in the band when they join this band is, I'm not going to tell you what your artistic paralysis. I want you to bring your artistry into this band, and it works. I mean, because each person has their feel for music, and that feel has to be right for you. Otherwise, it doesn't come out across as well.
And then the big challenge for some of us is when I play so much solo work as a pianist, because I happen to be one of the few instruments you can appear alone, and you have to really change. It's the same I've just discussed the other day with Pat. Playing Hammond organ sounds and playing piano are 2 completely different ways of playing, even though they're both laid out as a keyboard. It's hard to explain, but how you create the sound and the voicings on an organ and the touch sensitiveness of a piano, they're really, really different. And as the other thing that's so different is playing, the biggest difference is when you play solo and then you're in a band, especially watching that left hand and not jumping on the bass parts or anything, where you're used to being all of the music. Now I have to slot myself in very carefully and not be too busy. Always focus on. It's been a challenge my whole life, really, to say, okay, now tonight's a band night. I gotta remember that I'm listen and know I'm just part of this whole, you know, and that together is terrific. And there's a magic to a band that's very different than I've had lots and lots of great nights and still do playing a solo, because how it goes, good or bad, is up to me. But man, when the band's on a top night and everything is just crackerjack and sizzling, and the audience loves you, and you give them energy, and they go backward, and it just zoom into the air. It's a magic.
Well, I've never played as many gigs as I do in this band without a microphone. I'm louder than KC Too Loud is my name on my computer name. My email. But yeah, it's just kind of very unique to be able to play a lot of different places and not. I don't need a mic tonight. You know, if it's an outdoors, library park, wireless, walk around, do some stuff. But then it's just kind of strange to be loud enough to where you
don't worry. Keith has an amazing dynamic, and I mean, when we need it down, he brings it down, and it's a beautiful tone. This man is just he knows how to play his instrument and how it works. Can you tell we love him?
Hey, I'm given a chance to.
But he can play anything.
Anything. Really
I was. When I had my band in the 80s, it was doing Linda Ronstadt and Pat Benatar. I had a big, huge voice with a really big range, and I loved doing it. And it was mostly ballads. And I had thyroid cancer in 1997, and when they took my thyroid out, they nicked my vocal cords. Well, I couldn't even talk for like 3 months. And then when I did, it was so tiny, nobody could really hear me. So over the years, I've been really kind of stretching the vocal cords and pushing it out. And now I can sing, though nowhere near what I was doing, and I have to accept that. I don't have that voice anymore, but these guys are so encouraging, even when I'm feeling not so great about my singing, because it's something different than I'm used to doing. They're just behind me, telling me, no, that's okay, you're doing great. And so it gives me the courage to step out a little bit and go a little bit further. And I really appreciate that. I'm not a blues singer. Pat's a great blues singer. Keith is an amazing artist that can play pretty much anything. Same with David. Mikey plays a great funk, and he's getting into that blues guitar. It sounds wonderful. So the various kinds of music that this band plays, it's just a lot of fun. No matter what you want.
Bottom of a great, solid bass player who's just on target all the time.
Falco's amazing.
And the drummer we have is just, the combination is just a joy.
We gave Falco he's only been with the band for a couple of weeks. We gave him a solo the other night, and he just stepped up and just beat that bass.
Sure.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
He's always been a really great player.
So,
he's also... he won't mind me giving this quote. Is he emailed and said, I'm on my knees with gratitude. And that's just, if you know Falco, it's just not something he'd normally say. And it's because right around him, many homes were lost where he lived over in the Oaks area, and somehow his house he says, we dodged the bullet, literally. So he's awfully grateful for that. And I'm just really happy to be having him playing regularly in a band with him again.
Which makes us all grateful to be able to do this benefit to help those who were affected by this fire.
Right.
And over the past 2 years, so many fires.
Yeah, this is all new to me. It's one thing to see it on the news from your house out in the avenues in San Francisco.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's another thing to...
I'm sure there will be people at this Friday that lost their homes, and certainly everybody there knows people that lost if they didn't lose themselves.
All affected by it, yeah.
Everybody.
And we even know now that even if you're in the city, according to Santa Rosa, fire doesn't stop. It'll get you even if you're in a flat concrete place. So
yeah, it's almost apocalyptic.
It is.
The Santa Rosa business.
Yeah, so being able to help this county is...
I think the most mind-blowing thing about that to me is that over here, because we're treed and forested very heavily, us having bad fires after all the droughts, not so surprising. But the people in Santa Rosa, I'd be willing to bet anything. They didn't think that the last thing that would ever happen to them was a fire.
Right, sitting in the flatlands in a subdivision.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister lost her home in the Santa Rosa fire because she said, oh, I got enough stuff out. I got to get out of here just because it's so smoky. I'll come back tomorrow and get the rest. And then she turned around and her house was on fire. It was hard to fathom that could actually happen in a city.
Oh, yeah, I know it is.
But it does, fire is just a crazy thing. And so we're really honored to be part of the help and get people back on their feet and get them back in their houses.
We're really happy to have you guys, and thank you guys.
And we want to thank Tina Lewis as well.
Tina's great.
And Spotlight Productions. I can't go anywhere in the county right now without seeing a poster or a sign on the highway or and something by an email. It's just...
And Tina doesn't let me get too far away either. She wants to make sure I'm there for all the benefits.
Man, oh man. Yeah, well,
so I get emails every day.
Yeah, we sure hope a lot of you out there in
Radio Land.
Or as Bullwinkle say, Radio Land, folks. Yeah. I hope you all come out and support this and enjoy some great music, some nice food, and dance your little butts off. Can I say butts on the air? I think I can.
Yes, you can.
I guess I just did.
That's not one of the 7 words that George Carlin says you can't say.
Right. Would you run those words by us, please?
Do we have the 9-second delay here? It's really been a pleasure to have you interview us.
Yeah.
It's really been a pleasure to have you guys here.
We look forward to being able to do our part.
Well, now, all we need now is we need you guys to put something on CD or vinyl or something and come back with something I can play on the air, too, from the new group.
We need to do that.
Can you play vinyl?
Oh, yeah, I sure can.
I know, I'm looking at those right now.
That's that plastic thing with a hole in the middle.
Yeah, and sometimes
heard
even
about
different colors.
Oh, and I love it. I have a ton of it still. And to me, the sound it produces is still just...
I've heard that most people really say that a real audiophiles, whatever the right word is.
It's analog.
There's something about...
It's if you go to a vintage engineer like Muka, he does not like to record digital. He wants that analog sound, and it's beautiful. And this is a Grammy-winning engineer. I mean, the man's an amazing engineer. Crazy as a little bit of...
When you say analog, is that like my old early days when I do some recording things and it's the big thick tape?
Yes, big thick.
And when he says Muka, he means Prairie Sun
No, I do
Studio.
know that. I know Muka.
And there would be a slave. There would also be a slave there on the
That's right. A slave.
record plant days.
Yeah,
Oh,
gosh.
my goodness.
Yeah.
But it's just the most warm, beautiful tone that you get out of it. That until recently, the digital is starting to get to where they're almost able to do it. But you can now. What they'll do is they'll record analog and transfer to digital, and it brings a lot of that smooth over.
Yeah.
You got to have that crackling sound at the beginning, though, like when the needle goes down.
But you know,
Yeah,
I've had friends of mine tell me, we should just put all your vinyl on MP3s and make it a lot easier instead of me carrying a big stack of vinyl.
There you go.
But the thing is, that would ruin the sound that I like on the vinyl,
Correct.
you know?
Yeah.
And so...
Joni and I have a wall in the office of vinyl. Literally.
Nice.
A wall. It's,
Yeah, my wife has the most incredible record collection. She'd go to Europe a lot when she was a club owner and stuff, and buy a lot of old, Duke Robillard from years ago, stuff that wasn't available. I started looking at a record collection, and then a half hour later, she goes, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I got lost in your albums, honey. This is incredible
Look at the
stuff."
liner notes.
Yeah.
Remember liner notes?
liner notes. Yeah.
I mean, that were decent size and you could read them. And I miss those days.
Some of the musicians that have from Europe. I mean, like, wow, there were some great musicians coming out of Europe. What's his name? The guy I used to try to fool these two guitar players that played in a band with me that were sight readers. And I used to bring sheet music into them and say, "Hey, go ahead and read this." And I'm trying to think of the guitar player the three-fingered guitar player.
Django Reinhardt?
Django Reinhardt. Yeah, I brought some Django Reinhardt sheet music over to them. And the two of them sat down and they read the sheet music over. And next thing you know, they're about, and I forget. I stopped bringing it.
Wow. Jeez.
There were some amazing ones coming out of this. I remember first time I ever heard John Renborn. I thought he was pretty amazing, and Bert Jantz also another one that was really pretty amazing. Some of the stuff they were doing on an acoustic guitar.
Sandy Bull. I mean, I don't know
Sandy
whatever
Bull
happened
was
to
another one that really blew. That was the hippie days there, boy. Sandy. I remember listening to Sandy in some strange situations.
Oh yeah. A lot of strange colors drifting around.
Colors everywhere. Exactly right, Keith.
I can see your colors.
Well, hopefully we'll get into a studio soon and lay some tracks down.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Maybe I should buy Pro Tools and another computer and do it ourselves. I've got all the rest of the gear.
Most people seem to be doing that these days, huh?
I guess.
Listen, Mr. Wolf guy.
I went to Studio D in Sausalito to make my record because I'm so used to the old way of doing.
Joni's a genius. She can figure it out in a week.
No.
2 weeks.
Please stop making me do things.
Joni,
No pressure.
No pressure,
pressure.
Joni.
And I use GarageBand a little bit. So
GarageBand, yeah, we've been
that's as
playing
far
with
as
that
I go.
some.
Yeah.
Great name.
Actually learned how to split tracks.
I think the reels were a lot easier to record on.
Oh, yeah.
You just back the tape up and re-record over it.
I got a name for that.
4-track TX.
Wall and sack.
Yeah.
Well, the early days in the Fantasy Records on Treat Street, it was a 4-track. It was a TX. And Vince Guaraldi, Max Weiss is his manager. I got to play with Vince Vince at the a club in the city. One night I got to sit in because Max was his manager.
Oh, magic!
And
Vince Guaraldi.
It was I knew the name of the club all day today. It was, but being my age now, I can't remember. But it was Fillmore and Longwood. And it was
a location you can picture.
Marty Ballin owned the club. It was about 1968.
Marty Ballin of some group called the Airplane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you did a couple other things, Marty, didn't you?
The KBC band.
Yeah.
Where I got to do something with. Oh my goodness. Everybody's famous manager. Everybody's Santana's manager right now.
Bill Graham? Bill Graham. No?
No.
Yeah, that other guy. There's a YouTube out with Keith.
Just a minute.
With Keith in the case.
He has all the parties at the Grammys.
It's coming.
Anyway,
we're all blanking now. It's not Chet Helms.
No. He's
One of the managers in those days.
He's still around. Oh boy.
Yeah.
See what happens when you get old out there? You take care of yourselves out there.
Yeah, take your ginkgo
But
biloba.
sometimes it's good to forget things.
Yeah. Well, that's true too.
Well, yeah, as long as it isn't everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's human nature. Some of them more.
I love the fact that you can find anything pretty much on YouTube these days.
Oh yeah, you sure can.
And there's a lot of Keith YouTube out there. I don't think you know that.
Well, there was a lot of playing with Tommy Castro. There was a whole lot of all these rhythm and blues cruises, and everybody became Ansel Adams or DeMille or
everyone can do that now, huh?
Yeah. So and Tommy go, please, you guys don't. I don't want to go home and see this and hear this on a bad phone, at 3 o'clock in the morning when I get home.
There's a couple of MTV videos out there you did too, with Marty Ballin.
Yeah, with the KBC band. And that was pretty credible.
What's that stand for? KBC.
The Cantor Ballin Cassidy Band.
Cantor Ballin. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
wow.
Just one of the things.
Well, you said
that I was able
Shadowfax.
to
You have
do.
all these names. A.B. Sky, you said. Wasn't that
Well,
Danny
that's Danny. He lives up here.
Danny.
He was going to play Monday night, or the last gig with the one that got canceled.
Danny Blake? No.
No.
I love the way we're all
You mean
trying to
Laura
remember.
Lee?
Yeah,
that got
It's
canceled?
not.
That one?
Yes, Laura Lee. Dennis.
Geyer.
Danny Geyer.
Danny
He
Geyer.
sang "You Upset Me" in A.B. Sky. Incredible horn section. And then I met him years later.
You're the
You're the guy that sang.
Well, I totally remember. I remember you're on a bunch of these posters if they were the right year, the right show. You guys were always the second, third act billing.
Yeah.
I don't know if ever first, maybe. But I remember seeing your name
bet
up
you they had a
all the
first.
time.
At least 10 of
You
them.
know, various people probably from that band went on to other bands.
There's Cody. I played with Cody for about 4 years.
Commander Cody's
I
over
almost
here.
played with him at the Rancho Nicasio last Sunday, but there's no hotels around there. I don't want to drive all the way to Rancho, and as much as I love George, and as much fun as we had.
That's a nice club, and I've been there, but one of the things that keeps me from going there is what you just said. That's a drive, boy, to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's, when I moved up here and I started getting used to the 2-lane unlit roads, before that was just going to Rancho. I mean, that was Lucas Valley Road, a very beautiful, but still, for older guys,
It's a long drive.
just getting corrected.
It's even a longer
lenses.
drive home,
That's the
always.
one.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's the
We're really
the
glad
long
there
one,
are
yeah.
some good things we can play up here. And next year we hope to do the Lakeport Concert Series again. We're working on trying to land Calistoga has a great park concert series in the summer. What are the other things? Lake
County Fair.
The fair.
Yeah.
Kelseyville Street Dance. I mean, there are some good things here, and that's part of the appeal. It's
Yeah,
nice
it is.
to not have to drive so far.
And not to mention all the little clubs around the lake. There's
Right.
just quite a few. There's always something going on.
There's a lot of pretty nice places. The Spot, I went there a couple times this summer for the first time.
We enjoy the Spot.
I had a lot of fun there.
We had a lot.
5-minute drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves that. Yeah. And it's for all of us. It's not too far.
And they're really
it's
nice people.
Very nice
It's a good
people.
place
They
to
are
hear
good.
You
music.
play outside. It's very great.
And it is.
Very nice.
It is a great. That's a
That's
great.
kind of where
night.
I feel like we came
6
together there.
6 to
You know,
9.
Yeah, I like
you get
that.
home, you're in bed by 10:30, 11 o'clock. I mean,
Perfect hours.
I agree.
that's my age.
Yeah. You're going to beat Jimmy Kimmel before his
Yeah.
show comes
Yeah.
on. If you want to see him, you got to tape it. Your life has changed.
Definitely.
Lake life.
Yeah, lake life.
Lake
I'm gonna
life,
go.
yeah.
I'm gonna go
Lake
home
life.
and open up a brewski and root for the Astros.
There
That's what
you
I'm gonna
go.
do.
That's
It's
right,
been
the game.
I've never
You don't
done
want those
before.
Dodgers to win.
But yeah, anybody but the
The
Dodgers.
dreaded
Of course, I'll be
Dodgers.
handing out my Halloween candy.
Oh, cool.
You know, that's one thing where we live. We live way on the top of this hill.
Yeah.
And we've been there since 2001. We have never, ever had a trick-or-treater because the first bunch of years, my wife went out and did everything. You know, we had pumpkins, all the
Carving
decorations.
pumpkins,
But there
yeah.
wasn't
Nobody
anybody
there.
ever there, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I get to eat the candy. See, that's I
Well,
just
see,
have,
that's she keeps buys the candy because I'll eat it.
Well, I was arriving the last arrive for this interview right now, and I had to make my way. No, I had to make my way through a lot of trick or treaters. I guess they have
right
a
down on the main
big
street, yeah.
open
No, I
deal.
had a hard time finding somewhere to park.
Yeah, I did too.
We did too.
Yeah.
Probably got a ticket.
It's a
by
very
now.
nice thing about Lakeport. One of the many things they do is they want a safe and sane type,
Yes, that's
atmosphere
true.
with all the parents there to
Well, you know, yeah,
cart their
because
kids around.
When we were all kids, I mean, you could go anywhere,
Anywhere.
trick or treating, and
Yeah.
nothing bad ever happened
Ever.
to any of us. And now today, it's
yeah,
you know.
we used to fill up bag after bag.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I lived
Yeah.
in East Oakland in the hills, and it just you went everywhere. And little grandmas that created a haunted house, that, and they would
Yeah.
dress up and have a big cauldron with dry ice in it and stuff, and they put all the candy around the bottom of this cauldron and said, "I dare you to get closer. You can have some candy." And we were little kids, just like
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
oh god,
Oh yeah. There was some great
great
stuff.
memories of that time. And like you said, you could stay out till all hours, and you never gave it a thought.
No.
There was always a haunted house around the corner from where we lived. Well, here's the funny part about that. He always had great candy. And he was also our dentist.
Oh well, he's
Eat more candy,
self-serving. Yeah.
kid. Eat more candy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just building up his business.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
Well, being raised in Sebastopol in the country, we had 2 neighbors. They were very far away from each other. And so we had to cross a couple of orchards to get there. But it was worth it if we got candy.
No, there you go. Of
If
course.
we got candy. Sometimes they weren't home.
Right.
So.
Oh,
Which
nice.
also afforded us time to go out and TP houses and,
Sure.
do all the things because our parents weren't there.
You
so
could be a brat.
this thing in Lakeport's probably a little bit safer.
Bar soap.
Yeah, bar
Ooh.
soap, goose soaping
And
windows.
eggs, egging
eggs.
cars. We did all
I'm
that
not
stuff.
fessing up to any of that.
Yeah, I
stuff.
didn't. There's always somebody
Not
else
on the air.
that did it.
Yeah, we had some friends that did things like that too.
Yeah. But it never be
Friends.
us. No.
Yes.
Oh, no, of
just
course not,
relations. Stories that you
They were
heard.
our friends. We didn't. We
yeah.
would never.
Sometimes we happened to be with them and they started doing that.
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we tried to talk him out of it. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, we're all on the same page, aren't we? Here. Jeez, nothing but great memories of growing up, but always coming back and honing our talent on our instruments.
Always. Always had that music.
I got the buzz
Always.
going on the phone here.
Getting a buzz. Huh?
I'm getting the buzz on.
The one thing about music, though, being a kid, is that it really does keep you out of trouble. Because you do got to practice. You have a
Yeah.
little. I had a little book that I had to keep where I had to practice an hour a day. My mother had to initial that I actually did it. And it was good for me. It really gave a lot of color to my life that I don't think I would have in it otherwise.
Now,
Right.
be honest, it didn't really keep you out of trouble.
No. But I'm trying
I
to
tell you.
encourage other people to.
that girl that wouldn't look at me last year, and then I joined
There
the
you go.
garage
That's-
band, and that
Got
that
changed
attention,
everything.
of
Right
course.
Yeah, yeah.
When in doubt, chicks.
Yeah.
Let's get. I also think that I was real involved with Tom Aiken and all the golden years at Kelseyville High, which with my own kids being raised there, and I used to tell him that he's the kind of music teacher that's raising great people, not just musicians, because I believe in order to be in it was prestige to be in his music department. It wasn't just a class to get the units and get it out of the way. You had to really work hard, and he would have listen to you individually before concerts to make sure you know your parts and all this stuff. And those kids learn discipline, and I think that carries over to the rest of your life. It's a goal. You got to practice. You got to show up on time for your A period jazz band that might meet at 7 a.m. before regular school. And those kids, and there was always no surprise that quite often those were the top students in the school because they applied the same responsibility to their studying, but they were anything but nerds because it was really cool to be any part of that music department in that school because they would go to Reno and win awards, and it was hot stuff.
Yeah, it was. To listen back, somebody just sent me a live recording of this college of San Mateo Jazz Band. We were playing at Champaign, Illinois, the University of Illinois, one of the 9 top-rated jazz bands in the country, and they sent me a record. I can only listen to it on my phone. He said, and I can't figure out how to plug it into any of the speakers, but man, what a band! I can
plug you
creative
into the speakers
charts
on the PA.
Yeah, we can all listen to
I
it.
can get it plugged in for you.
I'll bring my phone to the next rehearsal.
Wow.
And,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's something. It's
all right.
From 19. Who knows? 19,
yeah, well, it was somewhere back there. The last century, right?
It was the last century.
They had I heard the invention of indoor plumbing and everything happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thing called electricity. And now the internet.
Actually, electricity, we have a brick in Joni's patio at home. And it was from a power plant I used to work in. And it was 1898 to 2011 was how long that power plant was in service.
So that's when electricity was.
That's when electricity.
That's when the electric guitars started happening.
I don't know about that, but electricity.
Yeah.
That's the mid '40s, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, was it Les Paul was one of the first?
You bet.
Got to meet Les Paul in Manhattan. He played every Monday night at a club there, and we go there with Commander Cody, and we go, it's Monday night, we got it off, going to the Orleans room with the Orleans, and
it's a legendary man.
He got in a car wreck, and he said, he broke his arm. He said, set my arm so I can play the guitar.
Wow.
Real nice guy,
Did you know, this is a piece of just trivial knowledge, that he taught Steve Miller to play guitar? Was Les Paul.
I did not know that, really.
He was a friend of Steve Miller's family, and Steve Miller's father was a doctor. And they wanted Stevie to become a doctor.
Of course.
And Stevie became a musician.
One of the most wealthiest musicians.
Yes, but his parents, from what Stevie was telling me one time, is that his parents were appalled at him, and they actually got mad at Les Paul. Wow. And I'm like, wow. That's a trip, and he could buy and sell his parents today.
Oh yeah,
sure could.
Liberace's another one where the parents said, I don't know about this music thing. It's pretty hard to amount to anything in that life.
It takes a lot of hard work, and it takes. I think the thing about musicians is that we live a life, because I don't have anything, but we live a life day to day. And the really smart musicians hire money managers. They get an accountant that will invest their money for them.
They'll either make it grow or make it go away.
That's right. Well, that's where Tommy lucked out, was with Jim Stapello. Stapello invested his money for him and put him on a budget.
This is who, Tommy?
Tommy Johnston.
Oh, John Johnston from
Well,
the
yeah,
80s.
and Pat's dad, because like I said, I grew up with him. His dad was a banker.
Yeah.
He was the banker. The
Pat
president
in
of
the
bank.
Doobies, Pat Simmons?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And his dad, I remember when that band first started, his dad said, I'm taking the money. And he bought them bank buildings and
Yeah.
all kinds of things. So all the money they made in the early days,
Yeah.
he invested really wisely, and the band let him. And,
But don't leave it up to a musician
No.
to do it.
You just play your guitar, sing, do whatever you do.
Go play your instrument,
don't touch
sing,
the
do what
money.
you do.
I just make money and give it to my wife.
That's right.
You're a
see?
banker.
Smart.
But Marianne knows how to deal with it.
That's why we're where we are.
That's
right.
right. That's
Good
what
for you.
takes. That's what it takes.
Absolutely.
Management.
Well, Friday night, 7 to 10.
7
Friday
to
night,
10.
7 to
Friday
10.
night
At the hall in Findlay.
The hall in Finley. Yeah, the Big Valley Hall.
Come,
You know,
come
there's a
support
group
it.
of dancers that follows the Clean Sweep around, and I know they follow other bands as well.
Right.
But I've heard from them on Facebook, and they said they're going to be there.
I know
Good.
that they will.
So I hope they're
Cutting the
hearing this
rug,
and they're bringing their friends.
as
I
they
mean,
say.
and it's only, it's really a great deal. You're going to hear great music for a little bitty price, and it's going to be a real good time. And you got to come, just the way it is. I'll be behind the bar, and these guys will be on the stage. And hey, you got to come.
Yep. If you don't have a good time, it's not our fault.
No, it isn't.
It'll be your fault.
Because
That's
you didn't
right.
come.
You get to see all 5 of us plus 3 more.
How's that?
What? You add differently than I do.
Well, I think there's 7.
I think there's 7 now.
Yeah, there's 4.
5
and then
plus
there's
3
5.
more.
Oh, and then you're
Oh,
including
they're
dogs.
you
behind
man,
the
he's
bar.
a
I'm
ex officio member of the band. There
Hey,
you go.
that's less than 10, so I can still
And,
count it on my fingers.
Don't forget Pop.
Can't
And
forget-
Pop. Oh,
All right, there you have 9. So we put $1
Now
for
we
each
got
person you
number 9,
named.
so-
We're almost up to the
Number
entrance
9.
fee.
Oh, and Tina.
And
And
Tina. So
Tina.
there's your $10
And
right
there's your
there.
$10
You
right
put
there.
$1 for each one of those people. You got it. That's best money best spent.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
And
Absolutely.
Tina does a great job at videoing. She's just an amazing talent.
Yep. And we're gonna have Mike Stempy there too. Hi, Mike. If
Stempy,
you're listening
yeah,
to this,
that's true.
Mike and
he's a
Tina.
great
and-
photographer. We're gonna
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
I think that Lake County is very fortunate to have as much talent in more than just music. I mean, they have people that have talent.
Yes, they do.
In producing and hey, we're lucky.
And radio stations.
And radio stations. And,
We are
you know, I
lucky.
mean,
I know.
we are
Supported
very
by the
lucky.
community.
Yeah.
And what everybody has in common is, I think, a love of the county.
I think so too.
Very much.
Which
And
what
I
keeps them
think
here.
a bunch of us obviously moved here from much bigger areas, and I think that we really love it. All of us that I've talked to. I mean, we love Lake County. That's why we're here. And
That's it.
Well, I remember coming up here as a kid in
Me
the
too.
late
Me
50s
too.
and the early 60s, and it was like, wow, we're going to Lake County, yeah. Yeah,
and back in those days, you went to Clear Lake Park.
yeah.
Or Clear Lake.
Well,
That was
my-
the spots to go to.
My
then.
dad had a little house over in the Highlands,
Back when they called it the Highlands.
back when they called it the Highlands. I
Wait, guys,
remember
we
it as
have
a kid.
4 minutes before we got to give Jim and Gail
Okay.
Sure.
I just enjoy the silence coming here.
So
from
you
the
guys,
city.
we got
Yeah.
about 4 minutes till we have Tribal Voices coming on. So I want to thank you all for listening, and you should all come and hear these guys play. They're really good. And thanks you guys for being here today. I really appreciate it. We'll probably have them back again if they'll come back again.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you,
right.
Doc, for having us.
Thanks for
My
having us, guys.
pleasure.
I want
Thank
hors
you.
d'oeuvres.
Yeah.